Welcome everyone to iAfrica Media, the biggest media platform for all things eye care on the African continent. I'm your host, Obi Malope, all the way from South Africa. And of course, today, we're taking things on a different angle now. You know, a lot of us, when we got into eye care, we identified a need, we identified a problem within our communities, within society, that sparked a fire within us that motivated us to go into eye care. As time goes by, some of us tend to focus more on the academic side, some of us tend to focus more on the clinical side of things, and a whole lot of people tend to focus more on the business side of optometry. But then from time to time, there are people that tend to remind us of why we got into optometry in the first place, because of the amazing work that they do within their respective communities, over and above the work that takes place within the examination room. And so if you have not guessed it in terms of what we're talking about today or who our guest is, today we've got the awesome privilege and the honor to be sitting and interviewing a young dynamic optometrist, Zaahira S.A. Jogee. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
Very, very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's only a pleasure. It's only a pleasure. There's a lot of people that perhaps have seen you online, but they've never put a face to the person online. Who is Zaahira? How did your journey into eye care begin? And what do you currently do in eye care at the current moment?
So I started in basically the optometric field when, how can I say, my mom actually inspired me to get into this field. She always told us the story of how she, as a child, would struggle with her vision and just never knew. And it was only when she got to high school that they realized that she wasn't being a difficult student. It was just that she couldn't see clearly. And her whole world had literally just changed from that moment on. Wow. And so since then, I think that was always at the back of my mind when I was thinking of my career path and what I'd like to do one day. And then, yes, and the journey through university, all of that as well. And then from there, at the health department. And working at the health department, I realized that eye care is not something that's actually focused on. It's not considered primary health care. There's a lot of other fields that are taking first priority over eye care and eye awareness. And so people didn't realize that they've actually got serious eye conditions, like you see a lot of glaucoma conditions or cataracts and things like that as well, and didn't know that they had problems. And because of that, I think that actually then initiated the Ruya project, which we would go out and then do free eye care screenings and eye awareness programs for kids, especially that, from underprivileged communities who eye care was not a first priority for them. Like as parents, they couldn't afford, little basic things for the children, never mind now taking them for an eye test and all of those expenses. And then that's when this project was born, to try and curb that issue of having kids at school level who cannot see properly, cannot see clearly, and then going on, and then that cycle of poverty is not broken because they cannot progress at school. They don't go on to studying things further, and then that they just can't get jobs and things as well. So although eye care seems such a small, insignificant thing at that point, it's actually going on to create such bigger socioeconomic issues, and that those kids cannot break out of.
Wow, you reminded me of the time when I was still studying. I think it was in our third year, where we would do community-based work. And I personally had to repeat my third year. And so I got the opportunity of doing Pelo Paper in third year and final year. And a lot of that year was focused on spending a lot of time on community-related projects within the community of the Free State. And I remember we would go to communities in the Free State, Eastern Free State to be exact, and you will see the impact that poverty has on people's vision and how it becomes a by the way, because in their mind, they think that because they can't afford eye care related services, they don't necessarily have the urgency of seeking eye care related services. In you starting the Ruya project, what were some of the challenges that you encountered earlier on in you getting started? What was the misconceptions that the communities had about eye care as a whole?
So initially at the start, when launching the project, there were a lot of people who basically were hesitant in actually initiating or like starting it with me because they felt eye care was not a priority. They said no, that these kids have other things to deal with. People have other things to worry about, like general health care. Again, then like the lack of just getting simple products and things like that. You know, those things are more of a priority, like your hygiene products, those kind of things. People needed that over spectacles. And then that's when I said, no, but the idea is that we're going to be doing free testing, free spectacles. So it's going to be no charge to them. Because if you look at it, like if I had a child in one of the testings that I did at the school while working at the health department, she was a -6. She couldn't see anything. She was in grade 2. And then also because of the lack of funding, lack of budget, we couldn't get her a pair of spectacles until maybe a year or so later. So that child is sitting in their classroom, unable to see clearly. She's not doing well. The teachers are now taking it out on her, saying that no, this child doesn't want to learn. She's being stubborn and all of it, not realizing that she's sitting with a -6 prescription in a classroom. She even right at the front, she cannot see the board. She can't see her book unless she's sitting very close. And again, that also is considered to be naughty or stubborn or just not wanting to perform well at school or easily being distracted because she basically cannot see anything. And so when I brought those things forward, suddenly there was a change in that more people were now understanding what we're trying to do and achieve. And then also getting more optoms to actually volunteer their time. That's definitely been a struggle because I mean, we all work. It's like 9 to 6 daily. You're working Saturdays and things as well. So the time that optoms have with their family and things, that's also limited. So now you're asking them to sacrifice that little bit of time to come out and help. It's not easy for them to do. Um, Initially, Brian Holden did sponsor the spectacles for us for that first year. So that was quite nice because then we worked everything through them. We had the frames done, the lenses and all of that. And then once IMASA, the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa, they then took over and adopted the project. Now we have a lot more funding in terms of getting spectacles, more equipment so our screenings can be more efficient, and then also doing the spectacles and lenses and things from their side. So at the start, it was a lot of like people were hesitant in the sense that they said it wasn't a priority. They didn't see IT as being a priority. But now, as we're going along, creating that awareness as we go through, more people are now trying to, make the time to volunteer, or even if they can't, then actually sponsor some items like the frames and all of that, which makes it a lot easier in terms of us now, being able to provide the kids or even the elderly with good spectacles and good things going forward.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. How are you educating the patients that are getting these services from you guys? And how long have you been running? That's the second part. So the first part is how are you educating the community? Secondly will be how long have you guys been running? And has it gotten to a stage yet where they're coming back for their repeat prescriptions with the eyewear glasses that you had given them before?
So what we actually started from the beginning is because we found that if you're going to a kid's home or kids facility and all of that as well, that they couldn't get transport to come to you as to come to the practice because there's maybe 60 kids or 80 kids.
Okay.
So we would go then to the premises itself. We do a little bit of a talk to explain why we're here, what we're doing, what we'd like to achieve by doing this testing, the screening, and why it's important to look after your eyes, because also you'll find a lot of kids with allergies or just a bit of dry eye because of the dusty environments that they're in and things like that. So then we educate them about using drops, using the face cloths to clean the eye, using your eye cleansers, all of that as well. And we take those items with us. So when we go to visit them, we give them everything that they need as well. It started in 2016, August 2016, where we did our first screening at a home in Indonesia. So yes, those we have returned to those places as well. Say 2019, 2020, before the hectic lockdown, where we went back and then we did the second follow-up testing to see now how are those kids progressing. Do they need like new spectacles, or how is it going? Like 1 or 2 kids did lose their spectacles in that time. Some actually then moved on to other homes, but the ones that were there, then we retested them and things like that as well. So we do a bit of talks now and then, just to explain why it's important, what you need to do, just your basic eye principles as well, the importance of your safety in terms of now crossing the road. why you need to see clearly, so that when you're crossing the road, you actually can, look right, look left, look right again, all of that. But you're not doing that activity, but still not seeing clearly, and then putting yourself in an unsafe situation. So all of that is incorporated in our talks and things as well, so you're getting an idea of why it's important to test your eyes, why it's important to have your spectacles. And besides that, also just your general eye cleanliness, eye hygiene, washing the face, using your warm compression and all of that, your drops in situations where there's a bit of severe allergy, all of those things together. We're giving you a holistic approach to eye care and how it relates to the rest of the body, to your safety and all of that as well.
Wow. Besides, that is absolutely incredible. Besides the high scripts that you would find in a lot of these kids or a lot of these communities, what are some of the common conditions that you tend to pick up that you would not necessarily identify on a regular basis in your typical optometric practice?
So definitely a lot of vernal conjunctivitis. We see that especially more in the rural areas because, like, with the environment and things as well. One or two cases where we did find that there was some indication of pathology where we weren't sure what exactly it was. So we refer them, because we also have an ophthalmologist on board now as well. So we refer our ophthalmologist who then handle the case. There was a case of I think a premature baby who's now in one of the facilities who had amblyopia and things like that as well. So those things were then referred, but it was a lot of vernal conjunctivitis that had come forward.
You find that in certain communities, a young child wearing a pair of glasses is frowned upon. When they get back to the school, kids will laugh at them to say you're wearing glasses, or at least that's what used to happen 10, 15 years ago when I was doing community outreach related work. Do you find that that is still a challenge, or have kids nowadays become more accepting of each other wearing a pair of glasses?
So mind you, the funny thing is that I think at the start of it, yes, it was the kids where you'd find they wanted to were hesitant to wear the spectacles, we had to really convince them as to why they needed to wear. But now, a few years later, we're finding that maybe there's 10 or 15 kids in the class with spectacles. Suddenly, the ones who don't need also would like a pair because they want to fit in. So it has definitely changed from what we was before. Yeah.
Very, very
Even
interesting.
in a private testing room, I'd find like a lot of kids coming forward where they convinced that they need the spectacles because their 10 friends have it or their 5 friends have spectacles, even though they don't need anything. So yes, it has changed a lot.
Wow. It is, I can literally put myself in that situation and see those kids coming in. Now, what's your goal? What is actually your goal with the Ruya project? What is it that you want to achieve? What are you working towards right now with the project?
So ideally with the project, we'd like to get to as many kids as we can in terms of providing the spectacles where it's needed. Also, the main issue is the awareness, so that people will not take your vision and your eye health for granted. Let's make it a priority. Let's make it something it is primary healthcare. Let's put the focus back on it. I feel like optometric practices have gotten this bad reputation of just trying to make money out of the patient and things like that. So because of that, it's like the healthcare has become second to your business in that sense. So we'd like to put the focus back on it. It's still your health. It's still part of your body. It's something that needs to be taken care of, even if it's a year to every 2 years. It's not because we're trying to make money out of you, in terms of the client, but we're really there to take care of you in terms of your vision, your health, making sure that there's no underlying conditions that are now coming through in the eye itself. It could be detected in the rest of the body, all of those things. Ideally, with the project itself, we would like to establish eventually a little bit of a mobile clinic so that we can actually have a place where the kids could come to. We've got your frames, your testing equipment, your specialized equipment and things available. Because like I said, right now we go through to the premises and things as well. So you are a bit more limited in terms of what you've got, in terms of your equipment. It's just your trial case, your trial frame. We do take an auto refractor, but it's not so accurate as we'd like it to be. So by establishing the little clinic that we have, we can move with that mobile clinic. You've got your frames that are nicely displayed so that kids can choose from. You've got your better equipment to do efficient testing and things like that as well.
Wow. Very, very interesting. And in terms of how can optometrists get involved with where the project is at the current moment and where you would like to take it? How can, number one, more optometrists get involved? If an optometrist is watching this right now and they're thinking to themselves, okay, I've always wanted to get involved in more community outreach programs, but I did not know where to start. And I feel like I don't want to do it myself, but I want to be part of an institution or an organization, a nonprofit organization that's already doing it, already has a database, a network, a community that they've identified and where they can get involved. What roles or need exist right now where optometrists can come and be part of this amazing project that you're running?
So right now, in terms of the optometrists rather that we require, it'll be more to volunteer their time. So for example, like we've got our screening day coming up on the 10th of October. We'll be going out to an old age home. There's about 32 residents that we're screening from there. So for that day, we would like to get more optometrists involved so that they could volunteer their time to help us get through the screenings and the testings on that day. So we get to see more people as we, in terms of like getting to see more people as much people as we can on that day.
Wow.
People, that's the way.
Guys, we're still continuing with the interview, but contact details, because you mentioned it right now in terms of there's a project coming in now in a few days' time, and someone has got the time available to get involved. Where can people reach you?
So they're most welcome to WhatsApp me. I will give you my number as well. Okay. It's 083 788 0331. Alternatively, you could always send me a message on our Instagram page. It's at the Ruya Project, all small alphabets.
Fantastic. I'm fully convinced that you will get optometrists who will participate and get involved, not only on the upcoming event, but on future projects that are going to be done by you guys. Because I could imagine that now that there are less restrictions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, more and more things are opening up. It gives you guys the ability and the access to various type of communities initiatives that you initially would have not had over the last 18 to 21 months. So I'm super excited to see what the future looks like for you guys and your project. Now, when you're not busy with the Ruya project, how is your working environment currently different from your passion for making a difference in communities? How is your typical day like in practice? What type of, are you focusing on general optometry? Is there a particular area of interest that you tend to gravitate towards within the practice? What's your setup like at the current moment?
So at the moment, I had a little one about, say, a year ago. So she's about 15 months old. So since then, I have just been locuming. Because of the whole COVID situation and things, I haven't been quite ready to go back full time. But I locum at Jogee Optical in 4 Ways more. So just a few weekends here and there, weekdays here and there as well. So it's quite nice. Like I have been working there full time before now, just say for a year or so I've been locuming. So it's not too bad. I get my time at home and then time at work as well. But when I am working at the practice, I like to do more of the pediatric testing and all of that, it's a bit more specialized. Some days are better than others where you have, your easier cases, and some where you have to refer them for the cycloplegic refraction, or you can see they're definitely malingering in that chair, but it is quite fun.
Now that you brought it up by highlighting that under normal circumstances, when you are in practice full time, you gravitate towards the pediatric side of things. Obviously, you are fortunate enough to have all the necessary equipment that you need, technology that you need. When it comes to community involvement and the provision of eye care related services, where you've got less equipment available for you to be able to deliver the services that you need, how difficult is it for you when you have to make that shift from the people in private practice are getting this type of service and now you go into the less privileged communities and you now need to provide the same quality of standard eye care services, but you might be limited with regards to the resources that are available for you. How do you constantly make that shift back and forth? And is it very difficult for you to do so?
The change. So at the moment, we actually have a pediatric autorefractor that was sponsored by one of another, basically a partner project from Ladysmith. So we take that when we go on screening. So that's made it a lot easier because now with that, it does the binocular alignment testing and things like that as well. Then we also take our own color vision test. We take our stereo test. So even though the environment may not be optimal, we try to make it as best we can. So we'll use a room where we can darken the environment a bit, do our testing in there, make sure we're doing our ophthalmoscopy. It's more trial frame refractions, but because coming from the clinics at the Western Health Department, we were quite used to that. So I think we became more proficient in the trial frame refractions. So that quality has been carried on in terms of that. Like I said again, then when any issues were identified, we have the ophthalmologist on board who we can refer to, so those kids can get the treatment that they need. It is more limited in terms of the frames. I mean, we don't have that access to maybe your very fancy frames. But recently we did a bit of a fundraiser where we asked people to donate whatever frames that they could. And a lot of optometrists from Cape Town and things have actually sponsored brand new brand frames for the kids and things like that as well. So now going forward, we will actually have better choices for kids to choose from. Even our equipment, we are doing a fundraiser of about 250,000 Rand to purchase a tonometer, more specialized charts like your Lear symbols, all of those things. That when we do go out, we're giving every child the best care that we can, or the best treatment, the best testing as well in terms of that.
Wow, I like your response because a few weeks ago I got the privilege of talking to one of the head of the departments at University of the Free State, Professor Rasengani, and she was telling me that they would do outreaches with the kids, and the department will have all this fancy equipment, and as optometry students tend to rely on the latest equipment in performing the eye examination. And when they do the outreaches, she was telling me that she wants to go old school. Because when you go old school, your clinical competency skills get trained more with old school techniques that you would implement or employ. And that gives you the chance of becoming a better optometrist going forward, so that when you do have all the technology, all the diagnostic procedures that are available now, you're not reliant on them. Exactly. But, so I like your approach in the sense that you're not seeing it as a limitation. You're seeing it as, this is what this patient needs. And with the resources that I have available right now at my disposal, we're going to ensure that we give this person the best eye care related service that they deserve, irrespective of the resources that they have within them. So kudos to you, because that inspires me to always think that, you know what, things might not be what we want them to be. Circumstances might not be as ideal as we would love them to be, but the job needs to get done at the end of the day. And I think with community related work, it stretches you. It stretches you in terms of why you're doing what you're doing, how you are making a difference, and the impact that you are making in that particular person or community. It's so tangible that you cannot remain the same as a person. So the question then that I have for you is, what inspires you then? What keeps you having this energy? What keeps you motivated? What keeps you wanting to contribute more, as compared to being frustrated with, here's the need, here's the supply, and your energy levels need to be there because people will pick up from your energy. So how do you keep ensuring that you are operating here all the time the way you have been the past couple of years?
I think when I started working and things, I always developed the ethic of, if you want something done correctly and well, you do it yourself. And so that's pushed me to keep doing it. So even though like you're saying, you've got all the equipment and things available, So that also goes back to, I think, our UJ training, where we were shown this is all the fancy equipment that you get, but you're not allowed to use it. You have to go back to make sure in a situation where you don't have that equipment, what are you going to do? Think out of the box, get your work done, because at the end of the day, your main priority, you are an optometrist. You have taken that responsibility of, I need to take care of this person's eyes, this person's healthcare in terms of what I know, in terms of what I've studied. So that responsibility, it's there for us all. We all said when we wanted to study this course, we committed to that. This is what we want to do. We are now taking responsibility for this. So if we don't go forward and if we don't make the difference in our communities, then who is going to do that for us? I mean, I always think of it in terms of, if my mom was one of those grannies that, or one of those ladies or one of those kids in that environment where they were just completely neglected, it was never taken care of, it was never identified, what would have happened to her? What would have happened to the rest of us? So the moment, if there's somebody that's coming in an environment where you know that I need to charge a certain amount, or I need to do this, or whatever it is, but my priority is that I need to see this as my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. If this is my family member coming in, am I going to rub them off? Am I going to give them the healthcare they deserve? Or am I going to say, I don't have the equipment available, I can't do, this is the maximum I can do? And the next step, basically now, whatever it is, it's your problem, you deal with it. Am I going to have that mindset? What am I going to do now that's going to make the change in this person's life? Because here's a little child of maybe 6 or 7 who can't see very well. Am I going to give them the spectacles that they need based on the care that I can provide? Or I'm going to say, I don't have the equipment, I can't do it, you go sort yourself out. What's going to happen? What life path now is that child going to have? Are they going to become somebody successful? Maybe 20 years down the line, they'll think of me, maybe they won't even remember me. But are they going to become somebody successful in terms of now they have changed their cycle of, maybe they've come from poverty, or they've come from this underprivileged community, but they broke through, they broke out of it because of the opportunities they were now given? Or are they going to be shunned or not taken care of? And then that continued cycle, they continue to repeat, where their children are still stuck in that same environment, where they also cannot then progress.
I do a lot of interviews. I meet a lot of people. I go to a lot of practices. I do a lot of staff trainings. I do a lot of stuff. That is the most powerful thing I've heard this year.
Thanks.
No, I'm being for real. That is the most powerful thing. I'm a big advocate on communication. That when you're sitting with a person across you, irrespective of the religious background, the ethnic background, the economic status, you communicate with them at their level and connect with them to take them to another level altogether. That's how I approach things. And I always learn about different languages, different cultures, so that when I'm sitting with a patient in the examination room, I'm connecting with them and I'm building trust, and I'm going out of my way to show them that, you know what, I'm here for you. But what you have just said right now has sort of elevated my thinking to a whole nother level. When you say, if this was my sister, if this was my mother, if this was my brother, if this was my dad, if this was my uncle, if this was my granny, if this was my granddad, how would I treat this person? Or how would I want them to be treated?
That's it, yeah.
By you having that mentality, automatically changes everything that you do. And so if we take that approach to every single patient, that means whether you saw 10 people or whether you saw 100 people, if you have the same type of mentality, you're going to transform the way you do business. It would not even matter whether your practice is the fanciest of practices, whether you've got high-end equipment or frames. It would not matter whether you are in a high-end area. For as long as that is your approach with every single person sitting in front of you, there's no better marketing than word of mouth. When people leave your practice, getting the service that you have rendered, and they go and tell their friends, their family, they network about the experience that they got from the optometrist. Because what you have just said, I hope that the people that are going to be watching this or listening to it will take that, what you've just said, and go and implement it in their practices, because I think that is the biggest thing that we can carry ourselves as eye care practitioners. In actual fact, as services, whether you go to a restaurant, wherever you go, I think that is at the core of service delivery, what you have just mentioned, that how would I want to be treated plays a role in how I'm going to treat other people. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to write a book on service delivery, and that will be a whole chapter on its own.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you.
I'm going to engage you more on this because I think you've just said something very, very powerful. I had a colleague that I worked for about 4 years, a mentor, Hilton Morrow, and he would spend close to an hour, hour and a half in the examination room. And the staff would be frustrated that he's spending too long running over with appointments. But every single patient, young and old, black and white, irrespective of their religious backgrounds, when they walked out of that examination room, they felt that I've never had my eyes examined the way this person has examined my eyes. And he was implementing what you are making reference to. So if that's how you're approaching optometry, kudos on you, because we need more leaders, we need more people to approach it like that. And I'm fully convinced that the Ruya project is going to be a success. It's going to grow beyond Johannesburg. It's going to grow beyond what you're currently doing right now, because your heart is in the right place. Your attitude is in the right place. And the people that are going to be coming towards you, they'll take from that. They'll gravitate towards that. And it will not only change them in wanting to get involved, but it will also impact how they do optometry in their own respective communities. So you have inspired a lot of us today, and you've inspired me, definitely. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for giving me the platform to be able to share my words as well.
No, it's only a pleasure. Africa Media is not it's not a platform for just a few people. It's a platform for the entire eye care community on the African continent, where we can learn from one another and stretch one another's abilities, where we can look at other people, be inspired by what they do, and be challenged enough to say, that person is doing this in Nigeria, that person is doing that in Morocco, that person is doing that in Egypt, Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, and so forth. I'm sitting in South Africa, I can definitely also go and be able to do this. Because at the end of the day, if we're all going to be sitting in our private practices and just doing the minus 0.25s and the minus 0.50s and prescribing the latest technology lenses with those type of prescriptions, are we really making a difference if we're not going to get out of our comfort zones and reach out to those people who don't have access to the quality of services you find in urban areas, and us giving them the same standard of care that they will find in those urban areas? So all the best to you. And those social media page again, for those that missed it earlier on, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, it's at the Ruya Project. It's all small alphabets, no spaces.
Perfect. Guys, that was another fantastic interview today that Africa Media got the privilege of doing. If you're not connected with the Ruya Project, make sure to do so right now. They're doing incredible work. Most importantly, in a few days' time, there's outreach that they're doing. Make sure that you're connecting with Zaahira. We will share the contact details as well in the comment section. Make sure you reach out to them and watch the space. Watch for this project, because the best is yet to come. Until we see you guys again, until we're connecting with you guys again, stay tuned, stay connected with Africa Media across all social media platforms, and do reach out to us wherever you are, whichever country you are based in. We would love to connect with you and learn more about eye care in your continent. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Zaahira. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
It's only a pleasure.